The last couple of years, consumer debt has grown at a pace that is unbelievably quick, with credit cards from stores, credit cards from banks, so on and so forth.
A lot of people dismiss the buildup in personal debt, consumer debt in the U.S.
I mean, the numbers are staggering in terms of how many millennials get caught up in this bad debt cycle.
Borrowing boom, the strong U.S. economy fueling a record level of consumer debt.
$14 trillion in debt.
Household debt levels overall, including credit cards, student loans, and mortgages, are at the highest levels since 2008.
Americans are expected to spend as much as $730 billion this holiday season, and many, according to a recent survey, will go into debt.
Outstanding consumer credit card debt, it's at a record.
Well, households are taking on more debt, a lot more. In fact, they now owe a record amount of it.
U.S. credit card debt ending 2018 at a record.
So why should you never buy your phone on a plan? There is a saying and a sentence that rings true in this scenario and in any other scenario regarding debt. It is that the debtor is slave to the lender. So if you owe money to somebody, you are not working for yourself. You're working for that person to make them their money back. Even if it feels like you're working for yourself, when you owe somebody money, you are working for them and you are paying them back. When you buy your phone on a plan, what happens is that you are now in debt. If you buy a $1,000 phone and you pay the $80 tax up front, you now owe $1,000. Even if that's split up over 24 months and it's $38 a month and it's only $2 more than last time, every single time you are putting yourself in debt and you are now the slave to the lender. So what happens is that you buy these phones on a plan. Let's say you just recently bought the new iPhone 11 Pro. And you buy this phone on a plan, and it's only $42 a month. And then next year, the iPhone 12 comes out, and they have this trade-in program where you could trade in your newest phone and get the latest and greatest phone, and it's only $45 a month plus tax up front. And you do this year over year over year over year, and you never end up owning any of your phones. You're just borrowing them, you're renting them. And every single time, you literally get no value out of the phone. So you pay for 12 months, you pay half the phone's value, and then you trade it in and you get the next phone. Or you trade it in, you get a credit towards the next phone. But you never own the phone. At no point have you paid the phone off. And this is inherently the problem.
Don't you find the price tag for the iPhone 10 out of reach for the average American?
Well, it's a value price, actually, for the technology that you're getting. And as it turns out, most people are now paying for phones over long periods of time. And so very few people will pay the price tag of the phone initially. Also, most people actually trade in their current phone.
Mm-hmm. People in 2020, 2019, 2018 have gotten very comfortable with not owning anything in their life, whether it's payments on a computer, payments on a camera, payments on a phone, payments on a tablet, payments on headphones, payments on anything. Everybody takes these payments on because they couldn't afford the product up front. And I got a simple rule for you that I'll tell you at the end. But what happens is you are now slave to the lender. So if you go into Best Buy to purchase a new MacBook Pro that you can't afford because you have $400 in your account, but you could open up a credit card and pay them over 12 months about $50 a month, that seems way more enticing. But again, you're now slave to the lender. So every time you go to work and every time you bust your butt at like Chipotle and you're working in the line and you work in these super long days, 8-hour shifts, and you're exhausted at the end of it, none of that money you make is even yours. Most of it is going to be paying off lenders. And the reason people are doing this is not because they're stupid or they're misinformed. It's not like a math problem. People, if they sat down and thought about it, they know that it's probably wrong to make payments on something. The problem is that people are very, very comfortable spending other people's money, and they don't have any money of their own to spend because they've been pretty much lied to and deceived for a very long time.
Earning, still earning.
Always earning. I don't know where you're pointing.
Not that one, the big one. You can't sneak a good earning opportunity past me. In fact, I got a hand modeling gig that starts right now. Earn 1.5% cash back on everything you buy with Freedom Unlimited.
Can I get a credit card with no balance transfer fee?
We got you.
And no annual fees.
We got you.
How about a card where I get cash back on purchases?
We got you.
It's the no games, no messing around, no earning limit having. Do I look like I'm joking? Turbo boosting heavyweight champion of the world! Cashback card.
Heading to San Francisco?
If you own your business, own the card that says so.
In a recent study done by Common Sense, it was revealed that no millionaires made their money from cashback rewards on credit cards. The credit card system is set up in a way where anybody ever can get approved for one. Basically, all you have to do is exist, and you could have no job, a little bit of a job, a full-time job, whatever, and you can get a credit card. You can get approved for almost anything except for like a house and probably even a car you can get approved for, because these banks know that lend you this money. They know that you'll pay it off because you have to, or they'll be able to levy your accounts and this and that and this and that. And what's happening is these people that are using these credit cards to fund a lifestyle that they can't afford, their lives are being ruined. And maybe you know somebody, or you yourself have spent an amazing amount of money on credit cards, and you got $30,000 in credit card debt, $20,000, $10,000. You know how crippling that can be, where everything you do, you have to think about, I have this big weight on my shoulder. You might not think about it, because if you did think about it, you'd have it paid off, but you're probably not actively thinking about it. So when you're purchasing these phones, and you're purchasing these cars, and you're purchasing these clothes on credit cards, take a second to think, do you need it? Is it something you actually have to buy? Will it add value to your life? 9 times out of 10, no. You know what? 99 times out of 100, the answer is no. There's a massive problem in this country where we have this booming economy, but it's entirely built off credit. It's not built on other people actually owning things. It's built on banks lending people money that is actually their money in the first place. When you think about the banking system, it's kind of messed up. You are giving your money to a bank to hold because it's safer that way, even though if you have over $250,000, you're pretty much SOL. And it's safer that way. And they loan that money out to people who are buying these cars and these computers and these phones that they can't even purchase with cash that day. The banking system, that's another video. That is the most corrupt, unbelievably disgusting portion of America. Banks are the worst. So when you are buying these things on credit cards and you're buying this phone and it's like, well, it's the latest phone, I'm just gonna put it on my plan and I'll pay it off eventually, you're not thinking about it in the best way. If you thought about things in terms of the way that businesses do and successful businesses do, everything that depreciates in value, that is loss of income. So when you buy a phone for $1,000 and a year later, now it's only worth $500 or $400, you've paid all this money and you've actually lost money. When you invest in depreciating assets like a phone or a tablet or a computer, you invest your money in something that's depreciating. So if at one point it cost $1,000, and it doesn't cost that much anymore, you've now lost that money. And I know that people use their phones to make money and everything, but you could use an iPhone SE to make money. You don't need the iPhone 11 Pro Max to make money. You could use any phone, really. You could use a $100 phone to make money. So when you look at your phone and you look at what you're using as a depreciating asset, everything starts to become more realistic. So let's say you spent $1,000 on something, and then after you spent that $1,000, they basically took another $600 out of your account. That's basically what's happening. Not technically, but basically. It's a depreciating asset. So when you buy it for this amount of money and now it's only worth this much money, you've lost that amount of money. You've spent it, it's gone, and it's now has no value. So when you purchase these phones, the best way to buy a phone is to go on eBay, type in last year's model, you see it that it's about $400, or an iPhone 8 Plus, you see that's like $300. You buy that one, because that phone's more than good enough. And if the battery needs replaced, take it to Apple for like $29, or buy the iFixit toolkit for $29 and replace it that way. You'll be able to have a much better life, you'll save significantly more money, and you won't always be making payments. Can you imagine if instead of having that $40, $50, $60 payment to T-Mobile, to Verizon, to Sprint, you just had no payment. You just had your $40 bill or your $45 bill that you owed them for using their service. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be amazing to have 50 extra bucks each month that you could pay off other debt with? So the best way to buy a smartphone is not on plans. It's to buy last year's used model on eBay. That's what I think. That's what I would do. That's what I tell everybody to do, and that's what I will do in the future. I mean, I'm using right now, I can afford a different phone. I'm using a busted up iPhone SE. It's totally cracked. It's totally ruined. I mean, this phone is like almost unusable, but it's the principle of the thing. I don't want to invest in a depreciating asset, so I'm not going to go out and spend money on something that's going to be worth half its value in 6, 7, 8 months. Not many things drop as in value as quickly as smartphones do. Maybe golf clubs and a car. But when you look at the percentages, a phone, a 2-year-old phone, whether it's still usable or not, is only worth like 30% of the original purchase price. So I hope you take these lessons with you. I hope this makes you think about it a little bit. Debt is not a good thing. Stop acting like it is. This entire country is literally built on a deck of cards. Like one false blow and it'll crumble, because everybody, all these booming businesses, none of these companies that have booming businesses, none of their products have been purchased with cash. It's all on credit. It's all on credit. So we owe these banks and we owe these lenders all this money, and the economy might be booming, but it's not a deck of cards. And debt is the quickest way to grow, but it's also the laziest, and maybe not the laziest, but it's the easiest way and not necessarily the right way. In my opinion, the right way to grow your wealth is being patient and buying things with cash. Don't put down 3.5% on a $250,000 home that you can barely make the payments on. Save up, put down 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% on your home, on a significantly cheaper home. Get a 15-year mortgage, and that way you don't owe the bank twice as much. It's only about 50% as much. The best way to do is to buy it with cash. But if people lived by these same rules and they lived a little bit beneath what they thought they should live at, they would be much happier, because that next step up, it's just the law of diminishing returns. The more money you make, the less happier you are. The more money you have, the more money you spend. So if you just take 5 seconds and think about your life and think about how much money you owe other people and how many times you've bought these phones on credit, basically, then maybe you'll live a little bit happier of a life, because you'll have less stuff, you have less payments, and less stuff is good. Like, having less things is a positive thing. I suggest everybody buys less stuff, because it's nice having less things. When you live your life based on how many things you have, you'll always be unhappy, because you'll never be able to have enough. So you need a GH5, and then the GH5S comes out, then the S1H comes out, and all these cameras come out, and they're significantly more expensive, and you just need to have them for why? What's the reason? Probably because you're filling an insecurity gap, honestly. So you should take a look at yourself in the man in the mirror. And that was a Michael Jackson reference. How was that pitch? Should I moonwalk? But basically, what I'll say is, don't use debt, buy it with cash, pull out cash for your budget. There are so many rules that I follow. I would say the biggest rule is, if you cannot afford it with cash, do not buy it yet. If you want a new MacBook Pro and you cannot afford it with cash, don't buy it. It's a very simple rule. If you don't have the money for it, and you have to open up a credit card for it, or you have to borrow money for it from friends and family, don't buy it. Just don't buy it yet. You could be patient. You could wait a year. And if you want it that bad, it'll be a lot quicker, because you'll go bust your butt and you'll go get a second job and you'll work for it and you'll save money for it. You'll sell the things around the house or the apartment or your room that you don't need, and you'll live a much better life, because you have less stuff and you'll actually have things that you wanted and not just things that you sort of wanted. Thank you for watching the video. I'm Scott with Techno Eclipse. Peace out.